Happy holidays, everyone. My name is Beret, and sometimes I wear a Santa hat. And welcome back to my top 5 list of 2023. This is the second video of 2. The first video has already been posted. It is my top 5 loadouts of 2023, and this is my top 5 worst loadouts of 2023. If you didn't watch the first one, I highly recommend watching that one first because it also lays the groundwork for what my criteria is for this list. Remember, this is not my top 5 new releases of 2023 from Nerf, from everyone else. These are my top 5 loadouts in the reverse direction this time. So that means they could have been released before 2023. They don't have to be from Nerf specifically. They don't have to be from anyone in particular. All that really matters is that I used them in a game and I have now ranked them at the bottom of my user experience list. Context is key. So without further ado, my top 5 worst blasters of 2023. Number 5, dartzone Pro Mark 1.2. Oh boy, everyone, it's back. Did you think I could make a top 5 worst list without including the Mark 1.2? Foolish human. Of course it's going to be here. I know, I know. Sing a new song, Bret. This is getting a bit ridiculous, isn't it? If you hate it so much, what's it doing in your collection? I don't know. But more importantly, I did use this a couple of times this year because I really wanted to see if it was something that I could kind of break in over time or if it was still kind of crummy. It was the latter. The Prime has gotten, I think, worse on the Mark 1.2, and maybe with a little bit of maintenance and upkeep that could be fixed. I still like certain things about this blaster, and I keep wanting to give it a chance to see if it's something that I could legitimately recommend to people, especially now that it's at like a really good price, like a better price for sure. So if people want to go out and get one and tinker with it, I think now is the time. But I can't recommend this thing as it is, and it's not fun to use, especially when I have so many different offerings now to compare it to. Typically they're going to be more expensive than what this one costs currently, but that doesn't mean that I think it's a good recommendation at the same time. Some people have had okay experiences, and I think that's great, but for me personally, there's still just so many quirks about this blaster that I just do not like. Of course, the stock, you can't use the included one. Mine kind of broke for an unrelated reason, but yeah, still got that problem. The wrappings move around a lot when you have it in your hand. Like, it's super easy for that to just get warped. I feel like there's a lot of wiggle still in the front where I can move the front barrel and then like turn. I can turn it right, I can turn it left. And yes, the break apart feature is still nice when you get a jam, because yes, I have removed the things that made this jam in the past, and I have still had some issues. But if you really want me to legitimize how I put this on the list, let's say that when you put a snake head on the front and make it even longer, well then it really becomes inaccurate and a bad user experience. So that's my further justification of why I don't think the Mark 1.2 was a good blaster experience for me this year. It just made me wish I was using something else because the performance is also there. There were just too many other weird little features that made this thing unpleasant. So sorry Mark 1.2, welcome to the list. Number 4, the Captain Slug Flak. Here's one you may not have expected that definitely doesn't really fit in frame. The flak is not something I see being talked about too much these days, probably because it's been superseded as far as lever action goes. But I kind of liked it when it first came out, and this one was printed for me by Boomstick, and actually the stock was replaced for me by Boomstick after I broke it initially. I've wanted to keep using it at games, but I've had some frustrations with it recently. Sometimes when I would prime it, it would just kind of, as on the return, it would just automatically fire. So I've been trying to refine the catch here so it doesn't do that. It's currently holding now, so that's nice. But that's meant that oftentimes as I'm trying to use this blaster, priming it back, then it just automatically fires on the return, and I didn't mean to slam fire this thing. I'm actually trying to aim, because just with these 2 bands installed, you can go up to 4, I think. It's only getting like 130 FPS, but it is quiet. This lever action feels a bit less refined than some of the other offerings now, and with these bands, it just becomes a real big chore if you want to get even more performance out of it. So it seems like you put a lot of work in to not get much out of, and then with the unreliability recently of just it wanting to fire whenever it feels like it, it's not been great. It feels really delicate. Like, even when it's well printed, again, Boomstick Mods printed this and he did a fantastic job, it's just overall the flak feels like something that people would point to and say 3D printed blaster bad because you're gonna drop that and it's gonna shatter into 1,000 pieces. I think the flak would do that. It feels a little bit too delicate to even use like in a game if you're worried about it getting bumped. I just worry about this thing falling apart in my hands every time I use it as well. Just some of the inherent flaws of the flak have really started to show over the years, and I don't know, it's just a little disappointing for me. Number 3, the Nerf Alpha Strike Uppercut. I know what you're saying. Do you really need to put this on the list? Does it even warrant being included or mentioned? Yes. Yes, it does. Because I finally got to use this. I finally opened it from its packaging that I got last year, and I was not disappointed by being disappointed. Yes, this thing sucks. It's trash. I hate it. The uppercut was a mistake. And there are some cool things that you can like, oh wow, you could just boop, 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 like put a dart in it and you can fire it off your head. Sure, there are certain fidget aspects that make this thing kind of quirky. How fun. Otherwise, it's embarrassing. Like, why would Nerf make this? So many Jolt iterations that are, you know, fine. Like, yeah, some of them are they're all overpriced, let's be honest. A lot of them are just like, you know, weird little reskins for brand tie-ins at this point, but they still work. Like, yeah, you can get some good performance if you just really send it. You can't hit anything you're aiming at. So this is just like, this is the worst meme blaster I've ever seen. I knew it was gonna be terrible when I first saw pictures of it, but I finally was able to confirm that in an actual event this year. I don't even know if it's being produced still, so if you are able to find this, there's a good chance it's gonna run closer to like $5. You can get way better options for $5 from Nerf themselves, an actual trigger. The uppercut, not even once. Get that out of here. Literal trash, can't wait to use it again. God. Number 2, the buzzbee Tornado. It might officially be called the Adventure Force Tornado, but it's Adventure Force by buzzbee Tornado. Here it is, I don't have it anymore. Whew, this blaster, oh boy. buzzbee did a bad one with this guy. Like, I'm shocked that this thing says online that it's for ages 6 and up. Your fingers will hate you. Again, not even once. buzzbee Tornado is a terrible blaster to use. And it's not like you're expecting to get pro level performance. Like, this is meant for regular, like stock games. I would never give this to a child. They wouldn't maybe even be able to fire it once. I at least can give them credit for trying something a little bit different. It's not a completely new concept. It looked kind of cool, and like the magazine that came with it was also okay, and it took most other magazines too, so then that's fine. Oh man, your grip strength. For some people, maybe that will work well. Not for me. I don't know how you get the advertised like 90-foot ranges with this. I mean, I guess you have to throw the blaster and then get kicked out of the game you're playing at. I don't even know if I would recommend someone go out and get this to try to modify it. I'm sure there's something there. And I would imagine the right person could dual wield these and that could be pretty darn funny. I see a use case, but not for me. Go away. It already did go away. And before we get to number 1, here are some honorable mentions, or dishonorable mentions, I guess. The Nerf Roblox Viper Strike. I mean, I kind of roped it in with the Mark 1.2 with the snake barrel. This is where things get tricky. I mean, like, you see this blaster and you know me and you're like, well, wouldn't that be like on your top 5 list? Well, I mean, it's tricky. I know, it's hard to figure out where this blaster deserves to go, but like, it's not good. It's not a good blaster. And I mean, like, even just trying to use it as is, like I've modded it to take off the barrel. So now I can put this on random blasters and that's kind of funny, but still the overall like build quality of this thing is really low. Like, it's noticeably worse than other Nerf blasters. Tie-ins are not always necessarily like poor quality, but this one sucks, and that's why I don't recommend people ever get it at full price, even if they think funny snake blaster. These legs, trash. Like, the worst that Nerf has ever done. Unexcusable. And the overall like feel of it. I also just learned there's a jam door on top, and the magazine even feels like terrible. This is like the worst feeling Nerf magazine I've ever held in my life. It feels so squishy, gross. It feels like, again, a knockoff product that Nerf produced. So yeah, funny snake blaster, but trash. If it weren't for being so funny with this snake head, it definitely would have gotten a spot on the list. I look forward to using it again. The dartzone Max Omnia Pro. Okay, I know, this is a tricky one, and I'm already gonna get hate for this. Look, I debated on putting the Omnia Pro on the top 5 worst or not. I'm gonna give it an dishonorable mention simply because I still don't enjoy using it. Yes, I'm referring to both the first version and the second version. I have neither at this time. I used both. I'm done. I'm okay. I have the Strife X and that works pretty darn well. The Omnia Pro is usable, and when it's being sold at a discount, sure, for casual play, I see that as a fun blaster potentially. But even when I was using it in full auto, which has been deemed the best use case or only use case for this blaster, I'm having trouble with it. I, yes, get the performance advertised. I've never had a problem with the performance of this blaster, but I get so many runaways when I'm trying to release that massive rev trigger. It's just frustrating because I waste so much ammo of like popping out, trying to fire, and then I come back to hide behind cover and it's still firing. Maybe I'm just an idiot and don't know how to use this blaster. Totally possible. But there's just certain things about the Omnia Pro that don't feel like I have control over it. I feel like it kind of just does what it does. And the trigger delay paired with the sometimes weird performance aspect and then the random darts firing out after I've released the trigger already, it just feels like I'm wasting ammo and not getting any hits as a result. Yeah, you can fire pretty fast in full auto for a stock blaster. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with the performance, don't have a problem with the fact that it gives you multiple magazines. I don't like using it. But I can still see people picking them up and using them as is in games, or I could see them picking them up, modifying and making them even better. So just a dishonorable mention for me, that's as far as I'm gonna go. And the #1 worst blaster of 2023 for me is the buzzbee Pixelator. You probably suspected when you saw the Tornado at #2 that its friend would be at the top. And to be completely honest, there's an argument to be made that they could flip spaces, but I'm going to say the Pixelator takes the #1 worst slot because buzzbee knows how to do top priming springers. They put out multiple in the past few years. What the heck is this thing? This is so bad, and yes, I'm currently holding a modified one because as you can see, sometimes it's bad enough that I'm gonna have to use it again. Pretend you don't see the add-ons, don't see this extra barrel, you don't see this half-dart adapter. What happened here? Who asked for this? Oh, I guess we modified the handle too, like the trigger. The fact that originally it moves the entire paddle where your hand is to fire as the trigger, terrible for reliable firing, terrible for trying to use it as intended. The top slide being super tiny and also rough here. I don't care if you're a big kid, small kid, it's not fun at all. I do not like that one bit. I also think the Pixelator looks terrible as it is. I would still reference some of the other blasters that buzzbee has put out as better looking top prime springers. I will at least give them that in stock configuration, this blaster performs fine. And sure, I guess the paddle release is fine too. Oh, the magazine that comes with this thing. Oh, also terrible, extra pixelated. So you can't put it into most other blasters because of those pixels, but then it's uncomfortable to take out and put back in. You really committed to this one, buzzbee, and you should not have. I can't help but feel like I need to salute them though for going all in on this awful thing because it takes guts, and they did it. buzzbee coming in with the worst blaster of 2023. Now, as you can see, and I already mentioned, yes, sometimes the worst things must be experimented with and human suffering is only the beginning. So you will probably see the Pixelator again in the future. Thank you, Luchathor. But those are my top 5 worst blasters of 2023 that I used in games. If you disagree, agree, let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know what were your least favorite offerings. I hope that you have experience from them or you did a little bit of research and you didn't just say, that looks bad, therefore it is bad, because that's not very useful now, is it? First impressions are nice, but features really reveal themselves when you take them to actual games. Thank you everyone so much for watching. Happy holidays, and thank you so much for tuning in this year for all of my loadouts, whether it was on the main channel or the second channel where I started posting more footage. There are obviously a lot of blasters that didn't find their way into the top or bottom 5. They're somewhere in the middle. There's a good chance you can see them there on the second Beret channel. And there will probably be more to come. Looking forward to the next year's loadouts, and I will see you then.